My hymn for this morning is one that we all love. Lift every voice and sing. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmony of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Without further lining and uplifted voices, even in your homes, in your cars, wherever you might be, let us lift up this song. Lift every voice and sing.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring. Ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died, yet with a steady beat, not our weary feet come to the place for which our Father sighed. We have come over a way that with tears have been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past, till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our wearies, God of our silent tears, thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, thou who hast by thy might led us into the light. Keep us forever in the path, we pray. Bless our feet straight from the places, our God, where we met thee. Bless our wherever we forget thee, shadowed beneath thy hand, may we forever stand true to our God, true to our name, till oh, my record will be there, be it pages dark affair, when I stand before that judgment bar. Oh, when the books shall open wide in that morning, by and by. Oh, my record, oh, my record will be there. You ought to clap those hands at home. Oh, my record, oh, Lord, will be there. Oh, be it pages dark affair, when I stand before that judgment bar. Oh, when the books shall open wide in that morning, by and by. Oh, Lord, oh, my record, oh, my record will be there. Yeah. Oh, my record will be there. Will be there. Be it pages, dark affair. When I stand before that judgment bar. When the books shall open wide in that morning, by and by. Oh, my record, oh, my record, oh, my record will one more time. Oh, my record will be there. Be it pages, dark affair. When I stand before that judgment bar. When the book shall open wide in that morning, by and by. Oh, my record, oh, my record will be there.
that the work that I'm putting in down is not in vain. Treating people like not in vain. Standing when it's stuff to say is not in vain. Amen. Joy that we receive from our as we prepare to, as we put ourselves in position to go and receive a word from God, I want you to look at scripture. Let's look at the scripture over in the book of Exodus. In the book of Exodus, chapter 1, verse 22, and then 1 through 10. This is what the scripture says, and I'm getting word that you all are not hearing me loudly, and so I can't really yell any louder, so let me go and turn my microphone up a little bit, see if that'll get it. All right here, so give me a second to adjust this volume level on this microphone, and what I'll do is just switch to a whole different microphone and see if that'll just fix that problem right there. And so give me some thumbs up and some hearts if this solution works a little bit better. All right, I'm getting some thumbs up. Amen. And getting some hearts saying this solution works a little better. Thank God for technology. So the scripture says in Exodus chapter 1 and 22, all the way through chapter 2 through 10. This is what the scripture says. Then Pharaoh gave this order to all his people. Well, y'all, I tell you what, y'all flooding this thing with heart, so I guess y'all hear real good now. Then Pharaoh gave this order to all his people. Throw every newborn Hebrew boy into the Nile River. But then he goes on and said, but you may let the girls live. About this time, a man came and a woman from the tribe of Levi got married. And then the scripture goes on to say, the woman became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She saw that he was a special baby and kept him hidden for 3 months. But when she could no longer hide him, she got a basket made of papyrus reeds and waterproofed it with tar and pitch. She put the baby in the basket and laid it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile River. The baby's sister then stood at a distance, watching to see what would happen to him. Soon Pharaoh's daughter came down to bathe in the river, and her attendants walked along the riverbank. When the princess saw the basket among the reeds, she sent her maid to get it for her. When the princess opened it, she saw the baby. The little boy was crying. She felt sorry for him. This must be one of the Hebrew children, she said. Then the baby's sister approached the princess. Should I go and find one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you, she asked. Yes, do, the princess replied. So the girl went and called the baby's mother. Take this baby and nurse him for me. The princess told the baby's mother, I will pay you for your help. So the woman took her baby home and nursed him. Later, when the boy was older, his mother brought him back to Pharaoh's daughter, who adopted him as her own son. The prince named him Moses, for she explained, I lifted him out of the water. Title of today's word is Mama Needs Some Help. Mama needs some help. As we look at this word, today as we gather virtually to celebrate Mother's Day, although a sense of great joy fills my heart, even as I sat with my own mother yesterday evening, I'm also weighed down with anger as I think of the burdens placed on mothers by a cruel and selfish world driven by their almighty dollar. Mothers not only have to deal with the aggression shown by the peers of their children in their own communities, because you know that's where most crimes are committed against people that are in proximity. But mothers not only have to deal with the aggression shown by the peers of their children in their own communities, but when their seed ventures out into the world, they are targets of systems of oppression and inequity rooted in white supremacy. These mothers are in an unenviable position of having to trust in a system of laws filled with loopholes to ensure that Black folk are never fully protected by the law. And so even on today, we will see some mothers laughing and we will see others crying. I declare that Mama needs some help. Over in chapter 1, that last verse, in verse 22, we see where an order was given. Let's look at this scripture. It says that then Pharaoh gave this order to all his people: throw every newborn Hebrew boy into the Nile River. But then he goes on and he says, but you may let the girls live. An order was given by those in power to destroy by suffocation every newborn Hebrew boy. The people of the land began to feel intimidated by these folk that they've had in bondage and are enslaved and oppressed for all of these years. New leadership has come and promises that were made have been forgotten about. And they see the Hebrews growing in great numbers despite the hardship and oppressions that they're putting on them. And an order is given by those in authority to destroy by suffocation every Hebrew boy. To suffocate simply means to hinder or to make it difficult for one to breathe. And immediately to my mind comes the young man that the authorities had pinned to the ground in New York and simply out there trying to sell cigarettes. But they chose to not only pin this young man down, but to suffocate him to the point that he couldn't breathe. And I can remember Eric Garner saying the word, "I can't breathe. I can't breathe," suffocating at the hands of those who were in authority. And they held him down in front of everybody and alongside their comrades until he died. Those that were in authority, they suffocated. But not only do I think of Eric Garner that had to die under brutal and cruel suffocation. I think even in this country, when we look at the way that laws are interpreted and loopholes are found that attempt to suffocate our young people, that attempt to suffocate our people, because in my mind, the way that I think is that there are some that are in authority, that are in control, that look at it as a threat to those that they've attempted to destroy and suppress and enslave for so long, continues to grow and multiply like baby's kids. We don't die, we multiply. With your best efforts, we don't die, we multiply. And they attempt to suffocate through voter suppression. They attempt to suffocate by criminalizing, for one, what was a drug addiction and criminalizing it, but for themselves, looking at it as a health epidemic when we look at the way crack cocaine was treated and now opioids are treated. I look at it as suffocating. When in our own communities, we know without a shadow of a doubt that we have to be 10 times better to get the same opportunities. Suffocating and pushing us to the places to where we have no choice but to go and start our own, which is the best. Because we know that we're not given fair opportunities from people that are attempting to suffocate a segment of our society. Because I think just like in this scenario, there's a threat. They call it zero-sum game. When folk feel that if I give this person an opportunity, it takes an opportunity away from me. And here we see where the authorities, they attempted to suffocate and destroy and take the lives of all the new Hebrew baby boys because they were threatened by the numbers. And then as we look further in the second chapter and looking at verses 1 through 9, the scripture goes on and says, about this same time, after the authorities put in place this policy to destroy all the newborn Hebrew boys and destroy them by suffocation. We see in chapter 2, verses 1 through 9, it says, about this same time, a man and a woman from the tribe of Levi got married. The woman became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She saw that he was a special boy and kept him hidden for 3 months. She had to because she knew that the system wanted to kill him. But when she could no longer hide it, she got a basket made of papyrus reeds and waterproofed it with tar and pitch, and she put the baby in the basket and laid it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile River. The baby's sister then stood at a distance, watching to see what would happen to him. Soon Pharaoh's daughter came down to bathe in the river, and her attendants walked along the riverbank. When the princess saw the basket among the reeds, she sent her maid to get it for her. When the princess opened it, she saw the baby, the little boy was crying, and she felt sorry for him. This must be one of the Hebrew children, she said. Then the baby's sister approached the princess. Should I go and find one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you? She asked. Yes, do. The princess replied. So the girl went and called for the baby's mother and said, take this baby and nurse him for me. The princess told the baby's mother, I will pay you for your help. So the woman took her baby home and nursed him. As we continue to work our way through this scripture, we see where there's a mother and a sister. They did all that they could to protect this baby boy. But ultimately they had to put him in God's hand. They did all that they could to try to get around the system and the policies that were in place that would destroy and approve, sanction, destroy this innocent baby boy. Because they were threatened, they felt threatened by the existence of this baby boy. And this mother and this daughter did all that they could to protect this baby boy. But eventually they had to put him in God's hand. And can I tell you, I see mothers today that I remember back years ago when we received word that murderer that was protected by the laws of Florida, that he had killed a young man by the name of Trayvon Martin. He attempted to act as what we've known in the past
as a slave catcher. And he attempted to control, because he was threatened by the existence of this young man, and took his life. And I can remember some young mothers in St. Augustine, Florida. They called me up. I was not their pastor, but they knew me from the community. And they called me up and said, Pastor, we're concerned, we're shaken, we're afraid, we have sons, and we don't know what to do. We're afraid for our young sons, and we simply don't know what to do. And we're tired of sitting at home and crying and wondering if our sons will be the next ones that will die at the hands of either law enforcement or those who laws and policies have authorized to act as law enforcement and guard and take the lives of our sons because they feel threatened. And I remember I told those young sisters, you can depend on me to make anything you want to happen. Let me know what you want to happen, and I'll use the authority that God and the influence that God has given to me to make it happen. But we have mothers all over. I remember as I sat in the room one day at a conference, and I listened to the mother of Jordan Davis, a young boy that was simply playing his music in a way that a white supremacist felt that he had authority and power to control the way this young man played his music. And because he did not validate he did not acknowledge his humanity at all, he thought that he had the right to take this young man's life because he chose to play his music loud. I think about Sandra Bland and the Castillo brother, Philando Castillo. But then recently I think about the young brother in Brunswick, Georgia, by the name of Ahmaud Arbery. I think how this young man was simply taking care of his body and running and exercising through a community back in February, over 3 months ago. And I think how two white supremacists, how they felt that they had the authority, the power, and the backing of the system to take his life and not suffer any consequences. And they went in cold blood and killed this young brother while he's trying to defend himself with 2 guns drawn on him from the front and a truck behind him. And how they did nothing. They allowed 2 murderers to go on until they were exposed, felt that they had no consequence. I imagine the mothers of these children saying that I've raised my children right and I've done all that I could, and now I'm going to have to trust God to care for them in a system that seems to despise them and despise their very existence. And then as I look at the last and final verse in the scripture, and the scripture says that once God worked it out, that when Pharaoh's daughter saw this baby, that his parent and mother and his sister had strategically not thrown him in the river, but put him in a basket, hoping that someone would have grace and mercy and not kill their brother and their son. And it said that Pharaoh's daughter came along with a few of her maidens, and they saw the baby. And because the baby was so young, they recognized Pharaoh's daughter, said that this must be one of the babies from the Hebrews that my father had declared that has to die. And it said that she felt sorry for the baby, and she sent the baby back and said, find someone to breastfeed the baby until I can take the baby on my own. And they did that. And it said that the mother took care of the baby until the baby had become old enough and she had to give the baby back. That's what it says in verse 10. Later, when the boy was older, his mother brought him back to Pharaoh's daughter, who adopted him as her own son. The princess named him Moses, for she explained, I lifted him out of the water. I tell you, if I didn't have to preach this sermon, I'd cry because of anger. Not because I'm fearful or afraid, but cry because I want to hurt somebody. And I'm downright mad that this woman, after she nursed her own son, had to give her baby boy back to people who had put out a decree to take his life. God bless a mother's love. They ultimately had to trust God with the baby by doing the unimaginable, which was hoping that the very ones that meant evil on the baby would act justly. And mothers are doing that every day. They're sending their children to schools, hoping that the very ones who are taking and enjoying the privileges and benefits of systems that hold their children down and put a thumb on their neck, hoping that the systems will act justly. I'm thinking of mothers that every day send their children to colleges and off to work and to live in a world employed by, governed by, policed by, supervised by systems and policies that have negative intentions, but hoping that people will act justly. This mother, this sister, this mother had to do the unimaginable. This system, this mother had to put her total trust in God to protect her baby boy. That baby that when she looked at him, she said that he was special. When he came out and she held him against her breast, she said there's something special about this baby. She had to do the unimaginable and hope that those that meant evil on her baby would some kind of way find a way to act justly. Mothers are even doing it today, hoping that those who meant evil on their children would act justly, not have to have them be 10 times smarter and 10 times better to take care of their families and get a job, would act justly and not prosecute people that were selling and using watered down cocaine in the 80s and 90s more harshly than they prosecuted the people that brought over and that funded the pure cocaine, punished and imprisoned those that used the diluted version more. Mothers having to trust systems and policies and people to do justice as the Bible says. There are a lot of folk that call themselves Christians that are going to have to answer to God. When God required us to do justice and act mercifully, they have their own best interests at heart. There are many pulpits this morning all across the country that care for more for the murderers, the father and the son and the man care more for the murderers of Ahmaud Arbery than they do for the family that's crying, the young man that's dying that had much promise in his life. There are some Christians, I tell you right now, you're going to suffer at the hand of God because some kind of way in your faith, you looked at it as zero-sum game. That I have to put my hand and my foot on the neck of others. Because if we allow them equal opportunity, some kind of way it's going to take away from me. These mothers are having to trust Pharaoh with her baby. Trust Pharaoh's daughter with her baby. Trust Pharaoh's house and Pharaoh's court and Pharaoh's government with her baby. And there are some mothers that are listening to me. There's some mothers that hear me. I'm looking at my Facebook page right now. If I'm speaking to you, I want you to flood it with any type of emoji you want. You can cry, you can laugh, you can give me a heart, you can give me thumbs up, but I want you to flood it to let the world know that I'm not speaking to myself, that I'm speaking to people out there that it's hard to laugh because they're crying, but they're trusting God. They're trusting God with their babies, trusting God with people that call themselves Christians, that never knew God. They're trusting God with pharaohs and systems and daughters of pharaohs with their children. But can I tell you, those mothers are not trusting Pharaoh. Those mothers are not trusting Pharaoh's daughter and Pharaoh's system. Those mothers are trusting God. Can I tell you, those mothers have, they've seen the lightning flash and they've heard the thunder roll. They felt sin breakers trying to conquer their soul. Those mothers have trusted God through pain and through joy. Those mothers have trusted God, and God has proven himself to be faithful. But can I tell you, I want to look at what Pharaoh's daughter did in verse 10. And it tells you the mindset of Pharaoh. It tells you the mindset of Pharaoh's children, Pharaoh's household. It says when the boy was old and the mother brought him back, it said that Pharaoh, she adopted him and called him her own. She gave him a name, and she claimed to be the author and the one that was responsible for lifting him out of water. Today, we're dealing with a lot of people that want to take a lot of credit. This evil one that you have in the White House takes credit for some things and no credit for other things. This evil one that you have in the White House, in Central Park, he put a word out to kill and incarcerate innocent black boys. Takes credit for some things, but then has some strange Negroes running around praising his name when he don't take credit for other things. Oh, some strange things happening in this world. But can I tell you, God will have the last say so. When I look at Pharaoh's daughter was simply an extension of her father. Pharaoh's daughter was simply a furtherance of her father's policy. Remember in verse 6, I want to take you back to verse 6 before, because Pharaoh's daughter, she claimed ownership of a baby. She didn't carry the baby. She didn't nurture the baby. but she claimed ownership of the baby. Not only did she claim ownership of the baby, she named the baby. She named him Moses, and then she claimed credit for his salvation. She took credit for saving the baby. She says, I called him Moses because I lifted him. I lifted him out of the water. Pharaoh's daughter ain't no better than Pharaoh. And I'm coming to talk to some folk today. Somewhere in your mind, you think that the children of the races are somehow better. But when they act just like the races, when they act just like the parents that watched our left church on Sunday morning and gathered by the thousands to watch our people hang from trees, they are what they sound like. Stop making excuses for what you see and what you hear. Stop making excuses. Pharaoh's daughter, she claimed ownership. It wasn't her baby, but she claimed ownership. Pharaoh's daughter named the baby, and it was not her baby. The baby, I'm sure, had a name, but Pharaoh's daughter named the baby after being raised by his mother. I imagine simply disregarded the name that the mother had been calling him and the sister had been calling him. But then Pharaoh's daughter gave him a name that gave her glory because she saved him. She lifted him. She gave him a job. She gave him an opportunity. She gave him a chance. But before you go all back and you begin to praise Pharaoh's daughter, let me take you back to verse 6. Verse 6 says, when the princess opened it, she saw the baby, that the little boy was crying, and she felt sorry for him. She said, this must be one of the Hebrew children. Oh, don't go patting Pharaoh's daughter on the back for feeling sorry. Remember in verse 6, she only had sympathy, but the scripture says nothing about empathy. Oh, there's some folk that, they'll send money all across overseas to feed 100 black babies. But then they'll hold a pep rally at the murder of a black child in America. There are folk that are standing in front of abortion clinics and always talking about life, pro-life. But today they have fundraising pages for the men that killed Ahmaud Arbery. It's hypocritical and don't fall because Pharaoh's daughter simply felt bad when she saw a baby crying. She had sympathy, but I don't believe she had empathy. She felt sympathy because she saw him crying. But she could have had empathy. Sympathy and empathy are two different things. Empathy, not only do I feel bad for what I see, I feel a personal connection. I'm going to do something about it. If she had empathy, she would have accepted a real truth that her people was the reason this baby was crying. Her daddy's policy, her daddy's rules, all the things she benefits from was the reason for this child's tears. I don't care about you sitting and coming and walking alongside of me and telling me how bad you feel because of the policies, how bad you feel because of the inequity. And every day you're taking advantage of it and got your mouth shut. Every day you're enjoying the benefits and the policies of racism and oppression and got your mouth shut. I have no concern and I have no care about your sympathy. It's your sympathy that has us stuck where we are. Policies that work against us. Because so many of you, Martin Luther King said, it's not the enemy. It's not the Klan. But it's the silence of those who call themselves our friends who are our biggest detriment, who serve the worst for us. And this woman, she cried. She felt bad because the baby cried. But what she should have realized is that her daddy's policy that she enjoyed was the reason for the baby's tears. I'm about to close this sermon out. But I tell you, when I look at this sermon and I look at this word, I see a few characters. I see Pharaoh. I see Pharaoh's daughter. I see a mother by the name of Jochebed. I see a sister by the name of Miriam. And I see a baby whose name would become Moses. But I tell you, I sit here and I wonder in my militant mind and Holy Ghost filled soul. I wonder, where was this baby's daddy? I see a mother trying to protect him. I see a sister trying to protect him. But a daddy had to be there when he was conceived. There was a daddy there. And today, as our children, our neighborhoods, our communities are terrorized by vigilantes, mothers crying because their babies are dying, mothers wailing because policies have loopholes, mothers trying their best, and men are walking off and taking the lives that are suffocating the existence of our boys. I ask the question, where are those babies' daddies? Who's causing and giving out consequences for our homes being raided? Who's giving out consequences for our families being torn apart? Who's giving out consequences? And we see so many sitting back, putting it all on the hand of God. Putting it all on God. But I saw the mother trying. I saw the sister trying. But where was the daddy demanding that his house be respected? Where was the man demanding that his community be respected? I tell you, time's out for sitting back, talking about love and unity and truly not understanding what the word means. Love means I love you so much I will not allow you to do wrong. Love means I love you so much I will not allow you to disrespect my wife, my daughter, my children, my household, my community. I love you simply that much, and with love comes consequences. The Bible declares you reap what you sow. Mamas, I give you a salute. I give you praise. I thank God for you. Mamas, I thank God for even when we were wrong that you stood there with us. You held on to us, Mama. Mama, I thank you for when the world tried to destroy us, that you covered us and you tried your best to protect us. But can I tell a word? I want to have a word and give a word to the men that are out there. Men, I want to declare to you that Mama needs some help. She needs a man to stand up and be strong. Mama needs some help. She needs someone to demand that respect is given to her family and her children. What Mama needs some help. When the world is beating Mama down, Mama needs a man, not with a weak or jelly back, but a man to stand strong and say, for God I live and for God I die. I demand respect for my daughters. I demand respect for my wife. I demand respect for my household. I demand respect for my community. I demand it, and if it's not given, consequences will come. For the Bible declares, you reap what you sow. Stop putting everything on God and abdicating your responsibilities to give Mama some help. Are there some men in the house that are willing to stand up and be strong and trust, not only trust God, but be a soldier for God, to be a fighter for God, to be a warrior for God. I thank God that after David prayed, David fought. Mama needs some help. Brothers, we got to go and fight. We got to go and stand up. We got to demand respect. And if we die, we die. But God is still God. If it's ever going to change, if mama's ever going to smile like she deserves to smile, if mama's ever going to have the joy that she deserves to have, mama needs some help. And I declare, mama, I got your back. Is there a witness in the house? Somebody say, yeah. I can't hear the yeah, but let me on the screens. Give me some hearts. Give me some thumbs up. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, and all that's within me. I love God, but there are consequences. I love God, but there are consequences to disrespecting my humanity. Somebody say yeah. Somebody say yeah. I'm looking at the screen right now. It's being flooded with hearts and screens. I can't see you. I can't hear you. But I see you giving God glory. I see you giving God praise. And I declare on May the 10th, 2020, Mother's Day, and Mama, I got your back. Mama, I'm willing to stand. Mama, you can take it easy. I got this thing under control. Not only am I going to pray, but Mama, I'm ready to fight for my family. Fight for my home. Fight for my community. Somebody say yeah. Somebody say yeah. Now give God praise. Give God glory. In this virtual world, we have to learn how to do it differently. Now we do it with our thumbs, with likes and hearts. Somebody say yeah. Somebody say yeah. I want my people that are listening to me. I know I got you muted right now, but y'all come on in here and give God some praise.
Don't get it,
Come on
Reverend.
in here and give God some glory.
Preach, Reverend.
Come on in here and give God some praise. Are there anybody in the house that got Malcolm X mentality in the spiritual realm? By any means necessary.
Don't get it, Reverend.
Don't give Mama some help. By any means necessary. Mama, I got your back. Somebody say yeah. Somebody say yeah. Amen. Can I tell you?
Don't get it, Reverend.
Come on. Mama.
Glory be to God.
And Mama, we got your back. We got your back, Mama.
Amen.
We got your back, Mama.